This is Astro Morning. Thank you so much for being part of the program. This is another beautiful Monday morning after a surprising rain here in the FCT during the weekend. I know a lot of people did not expect that, but well, it was a welcome one. I just learned that some farmers weren't so happy because, you know, this period they had already not anticipated rain, and here it was. It was unprecedented. Some welcomed it, some didn't, but it was a surprise. I hope you are having a wonderful Monday as you start off your week here on Aso Morning. We would give you that lineup that prepares you for the week and the day. Today, as usual, we'll start with the newspaper review segment. Move from there to join Dr. James Komolafe with his behavioral checks, the holistic health tips that he often gives us. After that, we'll have our first interview, and after that would be the Investment Plus segment. As you already know, that's that segment that gives us the financial management tips, and Ile Imeje and Tosin Alasi are standing by to ensure that you have those very important tips so that you do not suffer economically. And that will be our package for Aso Morning today. But at this moment, we will just go straight to the newspaper review segment, where my resource person, our own developmental analyst, is already seated. He's an economist as well. He's seated to do justice to papers, or rather stories that made headlines today. Thank you so much for being part of the program, Leslie Atchison-Way.
It's my pleasure to be here this morning.
Oh, the pleasure is mine, but let's not quarrel about who has more pleasure. It's good to have you.
That's okay, no problem.
Why are you sounding like your sheriff, your new sheriff, the minister, the honorable minister today?
No, it's always my countryman, so any reflection might be from him.
Wow. Well, I mean, it's natural that very soon we will all start sounding like him, I guess.
I don't know how
being FCT and all. Okay, Leslie, it's good to have you, but we'll just go straight to the newspapers this morning. I will jump start with the Blueprint newspaper. The Blueprint newspaper has as its lead story, coup attempt in Sierra Leone. We won't tolerate plots to disrupt peace. ECOWAS warns. Prisoners abducted during security breach. Madabio imposes nationwide curfew. Aviation reschedules flights. That's on page 6 of the Blueprint newspaper. Over the weekend, we saw what happened. It was heavy gunshots, but it was repelled, I see. But what does it tell you about where we are when it comes to these schools? We thought that we saw the last of it, but it seems they're still brewing.
Yes, something must have led to it. But whichever is the reason, it's unjustifiable to, remove a sitting democratically elected government via coup. Now, that also sends a very strong message to political leaders in Africa to be cautious and to deliver the dividend of democracy so that their governance will be undisrupted by any coup attempt in any way.
Exactly. We have other stories here on the Blueprint newspaper, I beg your pardon. Below the masthead of the paper, NNPCL wins 2023 Nigerian Governors Tech Award. I think that's Government Tech Award. Drive fetches $1 million. Okay, NAF airstrikes eliminate 3 terrorist leaders in Northeast. I think that's something to celebrate. Bandits attack Zamfara communities, abduct 100. That story is on page 5 of the newspaper. I would like to know if if that abduction was 100 at a time or in a couple of weeks, days. I'm not sure, but at one fell swoop.
Yeah, because I think it was on a Friday after or before the prayer times. You had bandits who swept in and saw an opportunity of congregated people and, took them for kidnapping. So, and that gives a reason for more intelligence gathering, more use of technology in fighting insecurity. If we really want to get this fight right, we must adopt technology very massively, invest in technology, very well. In that way, we can deal with this issue of insecurity.
That place must be grossly ungoverned, because I can understand having a hostage of 100 people, but kidnapping 100 people?
Largely children and women.
It doesn't matter.
Largely children and women. They're more vulnerable because the captors have guns, and
what I'm talking about, the seamless movement.
Yeah,
it's not about the people. It doesn't matter how vulnerable they
people
are.
Is the factor.
Yes, and then
the movement of this large number is also a concern, that it happens. They went off successfully without any trace. I think the Nigerian security apparatus is trailing to find out where they are right now.
Okay. Let's move on to the other stories we have here. 2023 polls. Don't drag yourself into politics. Kuka cautions Nigeria's judiciary. Don't drag yourself into politics. That's quite funny, considering a lot of people believe the religious leaders as well should not drag themselves into politics and use the podium that they have for political speeches. Well, I guess
yes,
when you point one finger, 4 others are pointing at yours.
You know, it's important to look at the involvement of judiciary in politics, because it's going to undermine the process of building confidence in the system. It's going to undermine the integrity of the electoral process, and making it difficult for, anybody to always have that mind assumption that the judiciary is the only hope for common man. So the judiciary have to be seen as not being involved in politics. They need to be more conservative, as they have to notice why.
True.
And
religious leaders as well, because
of course,
exactly.
They need to be out of politics. Allow politics to be played by those who are politicians. Exactly.
Okay, focus on reforms to drive non-oil export revenue. CIBN urges CBN. Telecom leads as ICT contributes 15.97% to Nigeria's GDP in the third quarter 2023. And we have here 5 out of 109 senators replaced as Ebonyi South seat remains vacant. And the last story here, the footer of the Blueprint newspaper, 87 trillion naira debt. Halt further loans to Nigeria's 36 states. Sarah tells World Bank bemoans nation's 46.25 trillion debt overhang. And that's it for the Blueprint.
Yes, interesting part. Yes, as I saw in the headings of many papers online, Sarah saying that World Bank, IMF should cease giving loans to state governors. Yeah. State governments have not been, prudent enough in the way and manner they have managed public fund. We've heard of, fragrance purchase. We've heard of SUVs for governors and their, executives. We've heard of, feeding, whooping amounts going to hundreds of millions of naira, while the citizens are in agony or in extreme poverty. So, if the governors are not called to order, and I feel if the president, the commander-in-chief of the Federal Republic, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, do not caution the governors, the voices that will come up will be more than just Seraph saying that loans shouldn't be granted to states anymore, and that might even affect the federal. So we want to see a scenario where when we're asking for loans, it should be used judiciously, productively for the people.
But the World Bank loans used to have serious criteria. Is it that we always meet these criteria? And I remember some of those loans are often supervised, so to speak. Those projects that are often supervised. What happens there? I know the World Bank, IMF, they will always give us loans. China especially because we pay. We pay back these loans. We service our loans. However, can they do us a favor of ensuring serious KPIs on these loans so that projects that are supposed to be done with these monies are indeed put into
implemented?
Implemented.
That should be everybody's aspiration, but sometimes it doesn't always work that way, and that's why some of us trying to question the involvement in World Bank and IMF in developing countries and the impact of the activities. To what extent has it, stabilized or grown the country? Now, giving us loan that we know that will not be judiciously or productively used for the common good of the people shouldn't be granted. The citizens will raise more voices to ask that this loan should be stopped.
Exactly.
Because you can't, if you tie loan to a project and you can't monitor to see that those loans are used for those projects, it means there is a default that if any default occurs, you should also share part of the blame.
Exactly.
And not the state. The cost of servicing debt alone in Nigeria is a burden, which is over or about 100% of our revenue. It means for every 10 naira we make, we either spend 10 naira servicing loan or 9 naira servicing loans. That's not sustainable for a country that wants to grow out of this economic doldrum. So the government has to wake up, talk to the state governors, although they are kind of federating units, almost independent. But we've seen the government intervene in state affairs. So in that same breath, the government should also intervene as regards how state governors spend money that are not adding value to the citizens.
Exactly. I agree with you. I cannot argue there. But we're moving on now to the Nation newspaper. And it has as its lead story, CBN revises measures to cut food, energy inflation. And the writers here says, Cardoso to unveil plan. Government cautions producers against export amid soaring gas price. Oh, well.
Yes,
I've always said that in spite of the enormous gas resources we enjoy, we don't see it commensurate with the purchase for Nigerians. There's nothing to prove that we are endowed that could give us that relief when you go to purchase gas.
Among this cause of rising inflation, some time ago I advocated that licenses should be given to those who want to import rice, considering that we have a deficit backlog in terms of rice production and availability in the country that has led to the upward swing of the price of rice. Now, which is a staple food for most families in Nigeria. In fact, every 8 in 10 families do rice every morning or every day. Now, we have a challenge. The farms are not producing enough because we're not, improvising. We're not adopting to technology in our farming. We're not mechanizing. We're using hoe and shovels to farm. So we can't produce enough rice, commodity that will serve the population. Now, and that has affected, food prices. So the inflation largely you find in the country, about 30% or more of it is on the food, sector. Now, before you look at the energy sector, now there shouldn't be any reason why we should be buying, liquefied natural gases for an exorbitant amount, considering the quantum deposit we have in this country. But be that as it may, we have not taken advantage of what we have, our capacity to produce, our capacity to serve our people. So it boils on leadership. The political leadership, the current administration has to roll sleeves and think outside the box to see that inflation level is cut down both on food and on energy.
Okay. $134 million that African Development Bank loan will boost dry season farming, food security. That's an interesting one, especially after what you've said. However, would it be properly used?
African Development Bank has been trying over the years. Nigeria has got some good share of finances. But dry season farming, I think how do you determine you determine the next day by the occurrence today. The dry season is just about here, and nothing significant enough to show that we want to usurp the dry season period for productive agricultural activity.
Exactly.
So the government at this level, or the Ministry of...
I'm not sure this is for this year or next year.
This is for the dry season. It starts from this period where we are now.
But if it is, what have you seen on ground?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Tomorrow should have been determined by what's happening today. So from what is happening today, we can't be certain that the Ministry of Agriculture, the minister, has buckled up enough to ensure a viable agricultural sector production for the drying season.
Exactly.
The various lake chart basins we have in the country are meant to boost or support, complement dry season farming. But over the years, we've seen very few lake chart basins living up to that obligation. So we just hope that they get it right this time.
It's very important to Nigerians, because when you look at the purchasing power of an average Nigerian is dwindling ever so rapidly,
yes.
And it's becoming really concerning, because if you see such, you're also concerned about the attendant effect, crime would increase and all of that. So something has to be done, and done fast. If it is dry season farming, let's see the signs that we are in dry season. Let's see training of farmers to understand what it would entail. I don't think it's rocket science.
It's not rocket science. We have a problem with seedlings. We don't use the best of seedlings. There is nothing wrong if we decide to go the way of Israel. Now, okay, let's say they are having issues. A lot of people are not, having it good with what Israel is doing in Gaza. But they have one of the best technology when it comes to agriculture globally. Now, we can, do an exchange program and get very good seedlings. If you visit an average farm in Israel, for example, you see the yield per hectare will shock, is equivalent to the yield per 100 hectares. Per hectare is equivalent to 100 hectares here. So you start imagining what have they done differently in a desert land. So we have not done enough. We have not. The government is aware that they have not done enough. So, but enough is needed.
Enough is needed. Adeleke's absence on anniversary day raises dust in Osun. NDLEA swoops on drug party, arrests organizers in Oshogbo. That story is on page 7. But this is for you. Federal government rules foreign investors with 100% forex repatriation. I mean, what does it mean for the Nigerian person listening to us right now?
Yes, it's good news, and as well as it comes to an average Nigerian with a mixed feeling. Now, it's good news for investors to know that the investment in Nigeria, they can get it back. They can repatriate their money 100%. But the message to local investors who can't even have access to their forex to acquire machines, like the aviation sector, most of the operators there have complaints, inability to access forex, their own money they put in central bank to use it to buy, perhaps parts, aviation parts, or a full aviation. It's a concern in itself.
So that should be
so because for the foreign investors will also be looking at, okay, let's see what your local investors, are they able to repatriate, are they able to get seamless access to forex, to acquire things. So they look at all of those. We don't live in isolation. Information is all over. It's just by the click of a button they can know what is happening in Nigeria. So while we are marketing to get more foreign direct investment, and we want to build confidence that the local...
How do you strike the balance? I mean, I know that this might be in a bid to, lighten the burden on the Naira, when it's unfettered access to foreign exchange. And so how do you strike this balance?
If you want to have a non-political opinion.
Yeah, right. To make the business environment viable, to attract the foreign investment that we so desperately need, you know, so that, I mean, the dollar inflow in the country and not so much of outflow. So how do you strike that balance if you were the CBN governor?
Yeah, if I am the CBN governor, the first thing is build confidence in the system by making dollar available or coming up with an innovative, program whereby local investors can have an exchange, for goods and services overseas if they choose to.
Okay.
That's one way. Then secondly, by building confidence, the confidence will be seen in your policies. The monetary policy authority has so much to do. Of course, we live in uncertain times where the way foreign, the monetary policy authority operates in the past is no longer sustainable for a developing country like Nigeria. Mm-hmm. Therefore, the central bank has been intervening in the various programs of the government, helping in agricultural sector, making sure there are funds for investment intervention programs. Those things build confidence, but monitoring and evaluation is important. Right. If you reel out programs and policies, and you don't monitor to see the implementation and evaluate, do a post-mortem to assess if these programs have assess the level of the impact they have on the economy, you would be progressing, yes, but that might be in a very low downward progress.
Okay, and that's it for the Nation newspaper this morning. We'll move on now to the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. Why CBN governor is right on bank recapitalization. Experts are saying why CBN governor is right on bank recapitalization. That's a mouthful for me, who is not an economist.
Yeah.
And the writers here says inflation, naira depreciation, weakening capital adequacy of banks. Wants national, regional, international banks to coexist. Okay, this is your talk.
Yeah, it's very important at this point to have the banks recapitalized, because for one reason, after the depreciation of the naira, the bank's assets became more devalued, and one way to make the bank asset to be valued or valuable is to allow them to recapitalize. So by means of recapitalization, the banks would have more capital, access to funding. That can have a corresponding effect in dealing with our inflation. Right. That can also help to stabilize the business community, because there will be an impact, an inflow of cash. The bank will have access or enough liquidity, and this liquidity would find their way in businesses, and these businesses will create employment, and this employment will contribute to the economy, and that will lead to a viable GDP. So we have a good plan. We would need to implement it.
Okay. Above the masthead of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, Petroleum Minister wades into LPG supply. Price hike challenges. Please, Petroleum Minister, do what you can. Obaseki deputy set for showdown. Fixed event for same venue. Oh, Edo State.
That's a war to happen. Is avoidable. I think the deputy chose the venue first.
Of course.
And the governor is going for that same venue. So at this point,
unfortunately,
I think
if I have to,
the deputy should just
bet on who will win, you already know it's the governor. So.
Because it's power corrupt, absolute power corrupt, absolutely. In a developing country, you see these things happening. Nigeria is becoming a case study. So to allow peace to brew in that area, I think the deputy governor should look for an alternative location and have his rallies. And the governor can't stop him, because he has his constitutional right, he has his fundamental right to assemble and to gather. So I think we said it here on the show the other time that I understand the whole gimmicks of politics. I've lived long enough in Nigeria to understand the whole drama of reconciliation, apology. I just knew that it wasn't deep in their hearts. It was we were definitely going to see this. And for Obaseki, unfortunately, the deputy is at this moment getting sympathy.
That's how Nigerians vote. If you ask me, I would say he's allowing sympathy grow. If you do not want this man as your successor for whatever reason, what you're doing is making him more popular. That's just
you know,
my 1 cent.
Yeah, you know, that's it on one side. Then on the other side, the governors are not usually comfortable with their deputy succeeding them. And that's why part of what is happening in Ondo State is also a concern. We've seen the president intervention, and we're hopeful that from our last discussion here, somebody heard that we shouldn't hold power like we will not leave it one day. So there's always a time to say it's okay, your life is more important than even anything you are holding. So what is happening in Edo State, I know it's just a matter of time. The Obaseki influence will die down.
Well, we'll see how it goes, especially because he's outgoing. So
yes.
There's nothing he can do more. Yeah, and he's only one person.
Just one person.
ECOWAS condemned attempted coup in Sierra Leone. Suspense in Plateau over moves to inaugurate assembly. We have surpassed our first year good governance target. Adeleke is saying that. I think Osun State is having its 1 year anniversary, and the governor is giving himself a pat at the back. They have surpassed, according to the governor, their 1 year good governance target. NDLEA nabbs organizers of Osun illicit drug party tagged Unholy Alliance. Nigerians can be very funny. You are going to organize an illicit party where drugs would be peddled all around, and you advertise it. Very, very interesting. NJC panel meets tomorrow to pick 11 new Supreme Court justices. Ex-CGN Kutiji's son, Abiru, Salmani, others on FJSC priority list favor. Well, we'll see how it goes. Like we have been, Bishop Kuka has said, let's put politics aside so that we can see that sanity. There's chaos if you do not have a sane judicial institution. So yes. I'm hoping that this is that time when we'll put politics aside. To the Daily Sun this morning, it's taking us straight to the banks. It says, banks G3 over fresh recapitalization plan. OPS, others ask CBN to peg banks' capital base at 100 billion naira. DMBs begin merger talks. But is this, I'm about to go into the merger. I mean, we keep seeing these mergers, and then we see another spring up of banks and all of that. But is this going to be? It's
going to be as tough as it were in 2005 or so. A lot of banks will, be absorbed, yes. And their assets will be taken over.
Nigerian banks that do not have a capital base at the moment of 100 billion, or maybe in my head, I just...
No, a lot don't have. Their assets have been depleted, grossly depleted. Now, part of the gains is that you have a stronger banking institution if it happens. The banks that will exist after the merger talk or deal will be banks that are more stronger. Now, but the concern would now be for those banks, the banks that are not strong enough. Their shareholders, the interest of the shareholders should be protected when this merger thing happens. We see how that affected them, most shareholders during the 2005 era of the recapitalization, because some banks don't have the capacity. Their liquidity level is being very low compared to what they have, and the rascality of most of the bank CEOs has also contributed. They pay themselves very huge amounts in terms of salaries and allowances. So the banks are not, some of the banks are not as viable anymore as we can even perceive them. So, but we hope that at the end of the merger and acquisition, program, because it's like a big program. Yes, at the end of it, the banking sector in Nigeria's economy will come out well.
Okay, I I hope that it does come out well, because our banks are not meeting up to expectations. There's so much they can do, especially when it comes to starter businesses, the support they can give, but we don't see that at all. So let's get our banking system working. Okay, Ojuku's 12th memorial, Igbo heavily indebted to Jonathan. Bianca says ex-president stood by Igbo leader in life and death. Okay, Abuja resident on edge as bandits terrorize 4 area councils. Beggars banned in the FCT secretariat. 87 trillion naira debt. Suspend loans to Nigeria's 36 states over misspending, Serap tells World Bank. We had talked about that, and we have another story here at the footer. Federal government steps into cooking gas crisis, sets up committee to crash price. That's a good one. And that'll be it. That's much we'll take for the Daily Sun newspaper. We'll move on now to the Daily Trust newspaper. Ex-NISA boss arrested 11 months after sacking. Nabbed lobbying for reappointment. Both away 32 official vehicles. No comment. Excuse me. The DSS is saying. No comments, the DSS is saying. That's a 5.6 billion with project scam, if you remember that. And the NISA has been riddled with several
colossal corruption, that happened under the man's watch. The is it ED?
Yes.
Was brazen conduct of corruption, without minding that there's repercussion for such audacious criminal actions. Now, the EFCC should have long arrested him, but they have allowed him to be here and there. Unfortunately, right now, he's been arrested.
The most interesting part of it is he was lobbying for a reappointment.
How can he be lobbying for reappointment when
he has 5.6 billion naira? Allegedly has 5.6 billion naira. He can.
That won't be enough. We want to get Nigeria working, and those elements that have contributed to handing over an economy that is ailing, an economy that is not working, should answer questions for how they have misappropriated. It's unfortunate that some of these persons, just very few, have been invited. I think more of them who contributed to make it to pondering on the economy, plundering the economy to where it is now, should be asked questions by the EFCC and perhaps the DSS, since they have chosen to do.
What does one human being do with 32 official vehicles?
That's audacity of nonsense. There's no reason, no justifiable reason for using even more than 5 cars. What would you do with it? 32. It's a lot of vehicles. As if is it for sale? Is it for luxury? That is not for luxury. So it's just primitive accumulation of wealth that we have found by certain individuals who occupy public offices and assume that those offices, for personal aggrandizement.
Exactly. Let's move to your state now. That's below the masthead of the Daily Trust newspaper. Wike Fubara feud continues to put Rivers on edge. That's unfortunate, but it's true.
I think there will be a reconciliation sometime.
You anticipate a reconciliation?
I anticipate there is reconciliation. Wike is a strong force in Rivers State politics and even in Nigerian politics. Fubara is just an upcoming. He's an executive governor. The media may have also contributed in making it look so, intense. They both know how they have become friends in the past. We don't know how they started their relationship. But by and large, the president's intervention in their matter would lead to eventual reconciliation. It will be in the interest of the Rivers State people if there is peace in Rivers State. So it's not just for the interest of the governor or for Wike, but for Rivers people. So if the Rivers people is a paramount reason for everything we do, then they will give peace a chance, and there will be harmony.
Well, I just hope they give peace a chance, but utterances from both sides and their followers or loyalists hasn't been very, it's not just the media. Loyalists have been really capitalizing on it to hit up.
It's unfortunate that sometimes the current governor's loyalists, like whether he's sponsoring them or not, some of them have taken to attacking the former governor. But however,
we've seen it both sides.
Yes. However, I am certain that the issue of contention will be resolved. It's just a matter of time.
Of contention.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's leave it at that. As we move on now, confusion as Lagos-Abuja flight diverted over weather. I don't know if you read that story.
I read that. I saw the panic.
And it was quite funny. A lot of people believe that the pilot wasn't even aware that it was in Lagos-Abuja and not Lagos-Asaba. However, an official statement by the airline has been given, but it's very concerning that can happen without proper information to passengers. And Nigerians have been saying this. We are taken for granted. The aviation has not really put its house together enough. Sometimes flights are rescheduled without apologies, and you are allowed to even get to the airport, and then they now shift your flight by 4 hours, no compensation whatsoever. It's really
troubling.
Appalling and troubling what's happening. This one was even worse because you just find yourself thinking you have arrived at Abuja, but here you are in Asaba. That wasn't fun.
It's a concern. But then the fact is that for no fault of theirs, because of the weather, maybe
it's an afterthought.
It wouldn't have been an afterthought.
That is an afterthought because it was announced. But should there be any diversion?
Yes, the communication.
Process.
No, see,
there's a process.
The problem we have, even as a country, is closely connected to effective communication.
I agree with you.
So if we communicate effectively most times, we will be able to we would have solved a lot of problems that ordinarily shouldn't have been.
The reason a lot of people believe it was
we don't communicate. So look at it. This is a private business. Just as it affects the private business, it's also affecting the public sector. Exactly. So the public sector is not communicating as well as the private sector is not communicating. So the citizens are in the middle.
I cannot wait for that road network, that train that is being promised. I know that the aviation industry would have to sit up when they realize that Nigerians are not going to.
The competition will be.
The competition will be high because I anticipate that the trains will be cheaper. The trains will be, maybe not as fast. However, Nigerians will have that option. It's because we don't have options that when we go to our airports, we are treated the way we are. And it's concerning. I don't see any reason why it couldn't have been announced like it often is. If there's going to be any diversion, I've been in a plane where it was diverted because of weather. I've even been in a plane where they lost. That's another story. However, this communication gives that passenger
the confidence.
Several feet above.
They call it effective communication. When you say effective communication, it's both strategic. It saves cost if you do so. The cost of this kind of misinformation, this kind of fear and panic. It looks when we are at the point where confidence is being restored on the aviation sector. For a long time now, we've not had any crashes. So we hope they sustain the progress they have made so far.
Okay. Federal government raises committee to crash cooking gas price. Tinubu pledges full university autonomy. Is this something to celebrate? I know it would affect the price of tuition. So
it will come with mixed feelings. Some universities will not go that way, but largely for state universities, they may not do full autonomy.
Okay.
But for federal universities, full autonomy is good. The universities are underfunded. And autonomy will give them access to funding. But it will also make universities to be highly competitive. Because if your tuition fee is high and you're not giving enough in terms of reciprocal impact, you won't have more students. But that would have been so ordinarily. But you look at it on the other side. On average, number of people who sit for JAM, are even higher than those who are admitted into university. So it means that we have more people who want to go to school.
And less universities
available to absorb
Yes, I think there was also a call for about 34 other federal universities.
And I want to see state universities also going the way of adopting technology to have things like the National Open University is having, where people can learn from the comfort of their
homes. Exactly. Okay, Catholic priest remanded for impregnating teenager in Anambra State. But that's not why he's remanded. He's remanded because he raped a teenager.
That's a rascal.
Yes, if she's a teenager, then
it's a teenager. That's rape.
So it's not because the child was impregnated. It's because of the rape. I hope we see, because 16 days of activism, we're still talking about the gender bills, we're talking about the violence against women. So I hope that would be taken seriously and irrespective of his role in the religious space. We'll move on now to the leadership newspaper this morning. Local government autonomy, here we go again, Leslie. 313 out of 774 councils run by sole administrators. Only 20 states have elected local government executives. Non-compliant governors have no timetable for local government elections.
Yeah, until we make it a criminal matter, constitutionally enshrined as a criminal matter, you would have local government being run by sole administrators and under the armpit of the governors, state governors. State governors have for too long raped the local government of all its constitutional privileges and rights. So, and to use the constitution right is to protect the state government, is to protect the local government authority. The local government is the closest to the people. The local government is the first point of contact of administration. The citizen can see, can even touch or feel. So for local government to be run by administrators, and that is why you have inefficiency, ineffectiveness, and lack of growth, both economically and developmental wise.
Exactly.
So until we make it a criminal matter, this thing will not stop.
I don't know who brought this idea of sole administrator as if we're in the military. Anyway, above the masthead of the leadership newspaper, Sheibu declares for Edo governorship today. Israel releases 39 Palestinians. Hamas hands over 17 hostages. That's after the ceasefire.
It was an interesting part. I watched through and see the reconciliation, the reunion with the families on both sides. It's a good narrative. We just hope they should sustain it, and that should continue for a while.
Exactly. Call-up ticket racketeering pushes haulage cost by 200%. And then federal government revisits plan for local production of vaccines. That's an interesting one. Our pharmaceutical companies have always tasked them what's going on. Let's not always be at the mercy of the international community for vaccines that we can produce here.
Yes, it's good to produce vaccine here. We don't lack the human capacity. We don't lack the human personality. We don't lack the intellectuals. What we lack is the leadership. What we lack is the equipment. What we lack is the capacity to implement, to execute. The pharmaceutical industry has come a long way. We have eminent Nigerian scholars, scientists all over the world, doing very well. If we energize the sector, vaccines will be produced that can even serve the world.
The world, exactly.
Yes.
And that's it for the newspaper review segment this morning. Leslie Atchison, our economist here on ASO Morning. Thank you so much for being part of the program.
It's my desire to be here always.
It's my desire to have you as well. But it's time for Dr. James Komolafe's behavioral check, so stay tuned. It's going to be interesting.
Wow, great to meet you here on this platform again. Dr. James Komolafe from Saba Resources Intervention Hub, Fatima Plaza, Wuse Zone 2, Abuja. This is episode number 6 on sudden collapses. Sudden collapses, you call it, mind you, it is not sudden. It begins from a process and ends as a crisis. So what we do on our platform and hub is to engage with you to ensure that you don't get trapped into sudden collapses. And wherever you are on that track already, we'll walk you out of it. So today, I'd like to share with you certain stressors you need to avoid if you must not go the way of sudden collapses. I remember a popular king said, "So teach us to number our days, that we may apply our heart to wisdom." Wisdom is necessary in our day-to-day lifestyle. When you don't add wisdom, you simply just presume over issues and say, no, my body is used to it. I've been sleeping like this for 2 hours for the past 35 years and nothing is wrong with me. Some of you even eat without drinking water, and some of you drink water wrongly. All these issues are part and parcel of what adds to our stress. So what are your stressors? Issues that makes you liable to stress, and around you, of course, and surrounding you. One is ignorance, not knowing what to do. Please avoid ignorance. Ignorance is knowing what to do and failing to do it. Number 2 is ignorance. Ignorance is not an excuse. You hear people say, what I don't know cannot hurt me. That's being economical with the truth, you know. You can be hurt through what you don't know. So please find out. And then you can be so much passionate about others while leaving your own consciousness in the wind. And then this God is in charge syndrome. Say God is in charge. You are not sleeping well. You are not feeding well. You are not hydrating well. And yet you say God is in charge. Will God come and feed you? Will God help you to drink water? Will God help you to sleep well? God has given us common sense that we should apply. And then poor sleeping protocol. When you don't sleep to time and you don't maintain certain routine in your sleep pattern, it can bring you down in bad stress that leads to sudden collapses. I'd like to let you know that even the factor sudden collapses is not sudden, like I said. It's an aggregation of so many wrongdoings and violations on our part. Over-bloated schedules without behavioral order, which people call workaholism. And I think workaholism is like close to alcoholism. They are all lism. So please avoid it. Mental arrest. And then bed abuse. You are in bed and then you have your 2 phones ringing on both sides. You say, call me later, I'm sleeping. That's bed abuse. Bed is for sleep, not for telephone calls. Not for reading heavy books and doing analysis that often leads to paralysis. And then personal energy overdraft, where you don't know where to draw the limit. You walk and walk and walk until you are fagged out. That's not good. And then you are exhausted. You wait until you are exhausted. When you break your protocol, you don't eat well, poor dieting, and you wait to be hungry before you eat. That's already a behavioral error. Do the right thing at the right time in order to get the right result. Please walk away from this stressor. Don't wait until you are even thirsty before you take water. Be well hydrated. And to balance this up in a cascade, request our free incentives so that we can help you, your family, your organization, and the institution wherever that you belong, so that we can rid our society of sudden collapses. You know what? I and my critical team hands-on. Take my number, reach us so that we can prospect for this and help you cope very well on +234 8035 999 220. Thank you so very much and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Welcome back from that. Dr. James Komolafe, thank you so much. It's always very interesting to have you give us those very important holistic health tips. As you always say, if you do your check-up from the neck up, you would avoid several things. Now we're taking the conversation to what we had promised earlier, the 16 days of activism, the global 16 day of activism against gender-based violence, which is a key international moment to call for an end to violence against women and girls. It runs from the 25th of November, that's the International Day for the Elimination of Violence against Women, until 10th of December, the Human Rights Day. It's very significant. This is in support of this campaign that the United Nations, by United Nations Secretary Generals Unite, by 2030 initiative calls for global action to increase awareness, galvanize advocacy efforts, and share knowledge and innovations to end all types of violence against women and girls. Interestingly, my guest this morning is one who is a very loud advocate. I mean, they call her small but mighty. It's only when you hear her that you get to know that you cannot talk gender and crime against women or violence against women without calling her name. She is Lois Tofunmi Amele. She's a sexual and gender-based advocate, as the ED, Good Tide Philippine Missions Foundation member, global media campaign to end that female genital mutilation. It's wonderful to have you. I've been seeing you all over international media as well.
Yes.
And I've been feeling very jealous that you have not stopped by, but it's good to have you join us.
Thank you. Thank
Here
you so
we go
much.
again, 16 days of activism against
women and girls,
against women and girls. What would you say is different about this year? Are we doing same old things and not getting reports? Because it's very concerning when you now see those statistics are reeled up. I saw one recently, over 800 and something young girls were violated in Cross River in 10 months. That's how bad it is. And the reporting, I must commend that what you do is better. We are reporting better now as it happens. But what's different about this year's activism?
Okay, so just like what you said, my team this year in my organization, and you know, that's what I just told every member, everybody I meet, TV, radio, I just tell them that the team this year for me is, it's not snitching, it's reporting. Because when we can report these cases, then we now know how to invest, because our team for the 16 days of activism is invest, unite, invest to prevent violence against women and girls. So we're saying that, okay, let's invest. So how do we invest? When people start reporting these cases, then we now know how to go about it. And I'm glad a lot of people have been coming up to report these cases. A lot of women are afraid. And they're like, oh, if I report, what would they do to my husband? Oh, I'm not doing again. Oh, don't take him to court, you know, and all of that. But a lot of things are changing these days. A lot of women are empowered. A lot of people have what they are doing now. So whatever you do to them, they just tell you, see the way this person has died. See the way this person has died.
That must not be my story.
That cannot be my story. And that's because a lot of people have reported. So this news is all over the place. It's not, you know, in those days, a lot of people, when they just go through domestic violence or stuff, they'll just keep quiet and they'll say, let me just stay here. I can't go anywhere. But now, a lot of women are empowered. You see them tailoring, whatever it is, selling on this. Everybody is doing one thing or the other. So, you know, you cannot keep me in one place and say you can just beat me. And at the end of the day, I'll lose my life. Who will take care of my children? So that's what a lot of women are thinking about now. Who will take care of I cannot lose my life now. You know, so a lot of women are, you know, reporting, and they are understanding what's going on. The global, from the UN, the global statistics globally is 736 million, that are living with the consequences of physical violence, sexual violence, and all the rest. And that brings me back to the point where I met somebody and we're talking about FGM and all of that. And I asked her, I said, oh, after she finished, said, oh, so this is the reason why all of this has been happening to me. So I was like, would you have caught your girl child? She said, yes, I would have, if not that you met me.
Exactly.
So I feel like this advocacy we're doing is going a long way.
Right.
It's going a long way, and I'm impressed because me meeting somebody interpersonally, then on the 2nd of December we'll be going out for community outreaches, in 2 different communities, and we'll be meeting them. And I will not just talk, to that particular group. I'm going to do interpersonal communications with the women in that community as well. And I'm going to invite their women leader. I'm going to give her a topic that she's going to, because sometimes when they hear it
from them,
yes,
it feels relatable.
Exactly. Right. Even the SO of that community will also have 1 or 2 things to say to them, so that it can help them, to also come out and report these cases. So I'm impressed that from last year we're doing better. Right. A lot of advocates have also come, they are also out there, and I'm excited. Yes, I'm excited because before the 16 days of activism started, I used to start my own campaign before, because that's when I'll now mobilize people using my social media, WhatsApp and Instagram and all the rest, telling people that come out. So 16 days of activism is on the 25th. It's about to start.
I have been following you on all of that. Well done.
Thank you.
However, there's something that used to hinder women from coming out to speak freely, and that is that stereotype.
Yeah.
Okay, you are beaten and you left your home. That's something that's been happening for ages, and it's the westernization that's making you leave in spite of the economic empowerment that they might have. Are we also tackling that head on?
Yeah, like that's what I said earlier, that now I feel like modernization has really helped. Advocacy has really helped. Because in those days, you cannot just come out and talk about sexual and gender-based violence. A lot of people will feel like stoning you.
Yeah.
But now, people are now talking about it. And now you can now go out and say, this is what this person has done to me. This is what this person has done to me. Anybody that wants to stereotype you has their own problem.
Right.
Because we have seen cases of people dying.
Yes.
So now I'm so happy because I was at the program and I saw that a lot of women are saying, if this is happening to you, leave the marriage. You have your life, leave the marriage. A lot of people were saying, and I'm like, oh, thank God somebody is saying this, because before we used to have other women punishing other women for leaving their home.
That's exactly where I'm going.
So it's like a cultural thing. So you left your home, it's not like you have this stigma behind you.
Yes.
That's the woman that left her home. That's the woman. But now a lot of women are coming out to support other women, and I'm so impressed and I'm so excited about it, because I think it starts from there. If a woman can support you, then other men will not be like, it's better we start changing the narrative.
Do we even need that? I mean, when you see that support, they will have to fall in line.
Exactly.
Where does it go with our bases? I mean, children are often involved when it comes to this whole activity.
Exactly.
What does it do? These men who perpetrate these very heinous actions on their women. I will go to the men's part too. Can they salvage it? Is there a case where it doesn't have to be the complete leave the marriage, but do you also advise for counseling? Do you also advise for softer measures to ensure that that family unit is intact? However, this violence is removed from the whole scenario.
Yes. In fact, I don't even like divorce. I don't like divorce.
The concept of it, right?
I don't like the concept of it. If, the guy can actually stop doing it. I don't like the concept of it, because at the end of the day, the children will suffer. And I'm a huge advocate for children as well.
Exactly.
The children will suffer, and a lot of things will now start happening. I've seen mental health issues,
children.
Yes.
Children developing mental health issues.
Exactly, because of the separation and all of that. So I don't like divorce. But then if the case can be salvaged, then let's salvage the situation.
Right.
But if not,
it's very dicey. You never know that it's going to be salvaged, because some of these reports start with, we tried, went for counseling. Well, and then the person now tells you, oh, I snapped, and I did this and did.
Yeah, so some of them, like one of my friends will say, an adult don't used to learn something at old age. They don't used to learn new thing at old age. That means they've been doing it over and over again.
Getting away with it.
Exactly. And then looking at it, some of these men psychologically others, beating their mothers, and they feel like that's what they're supposed to do. Yes, that means you too can be able to take it, you know, and they feel like it's modernization. I will beat my wife, I paid her bride price, you know, and all of that. For those people doing that, and I would advise that it's better you leave, because that kind of person may not change. Right. But then therapy have helped a lot of people, you know, and have brought homes together. You know, that's one of our, it's also in our mission to bring home and communities together, you know. But then if it's now an intense case where you will now have to now lose your life and all of that, then it's better you leave, and you know, you can take care of your children. In Ekiti State, I worked with Barrister Shali, and they have a transit home in Ekiti State where they keep the woman aside, and then they have some time where they talk to the man and do a lot of therapy, one thing before, you know, the woman can be released to the man, and then that means the man has changed. So they do things like that. But then for some communities, it's just, you know, and I feel like advocates needs to know that it's not all case that needs to go to the courts. It's not all case that needs to end with prison. It's not all case that needs to, you know, there's some cases that we can just assess, you know, mental health, you know, talk to them and all of that. And after some time, those cases will be turned around. But there are some cases that if it's over and over and over again, I think before it's even over and over and over again,
you should, exactly.
Yes, a lot of things need to be done.
What would you say? I mean, we are constantly or rapidly adopting this Western life of it's my business, it's not your business. Our fences are becoming even taller. We don't know our neighbors and all of that. Even when you hear a cry out in your neighbor, you're like, okay, this isn't my business. Let me mind my business. How has that helped with the reporting of these cases? And for a neighbor, for instance, who might want to be involved to say, let's put an end to this before this person dies or it gets even really bad, what would you suggest?
I would say that it's important that we are active bystanders. And when I mean by active bystanders, we're people that would see something, say something, or do something about it. We should not just say, that's my next door neighbor, it's their business. Because at the end of the day, if that person dies, then it becomes your business. Right. If that person is injured, then it becomes your business. In one way or the other.
Somehow, exactly. Because that's your community.
Exactly. Okay, look at what is happening in Nigeria now. Because of the harsh condition of Nigeria, finances and everything, you get to see, you just enter a car and the driver is shouting at you. You know, this person is shouting at you. Exactly. So there are some things that leads to some other things, and at the end of the day, it gets to you indirectly. So it's important that you say something. That's why we say it's not snitching. It's not as if you're going back and saying, I'm doing amebo. Let me know you're snitching, because when you say snitching, a lot of people don't understand. It's not amebo. It's important that you report this case. Tell the person, oh, this and this is what is happening in my community. Go to the chief heads. Go to people that can help you. That's why I like the fact that in those communities, especially now that there's a lot of Western words and people have their compound and all of. In those days, you see communities where the king will call them and speak to them that, oh, this and this is not right. Stop it. But now, since you're saying this, I feel like you should report to the police. Yes, it's important that if that woman will die in that situation, first thing first is to communicate with that person in that community. Call her aside. I hear this, I hear that. I don't know, is it from your house or from the other house? Right. Then, if she now tries to open up and say, oh, it's from the other house, and then you now be like, oh, okay, I thought I heard it from your house. But you can confide in me if you need my help. And all of that. So it's important that we're there for each other. Exactly. So that from there, the person can open up and say, oh, I think it's from my house. I don't know what to do about it. And then you can offer help. There are a lot of safe houses these days. NAPTIP has a safe house. Ministry of Women and Affairs has a safe house and all of that. So you can get a safe house for the person, pending when the man can go to a rehabilitation center and get his mind right.
Exactly. However, we just talked about children who are often in the crossfire of all of this. Sometimes it doesn't even end in separation. They are still having to watch their parents fight like that or injury being meted on their parents. What help can you give, especially when sometimes you don't even know, you just see this child lash out because of the emotional turmoil the person is facing.
Now the thing is, some of these children don't even know that they are going through that type of trauma. They just, when they go to school, they react in a certain way, and you're just wondering that, why is this child so violent? What is wrong? You get just, when you trace it, you now get to see that it's from the home. Some children that are still small, they say it. I heard one that said, if the teacher said, draw something, and she drew her father and her mother fighting.
Wow.
You know, so some of these children say it in a certain way, and I would speak to the teachers here that it's important that your job is not just teaching them academics. Your job is teaching them a whole lot of things
for the holistic health.
Exactly,
really.
exactly. Because once they are well mentally, then they can accept what you're teaching them.
Exactly.
But once they are not well mentally, you say, this child, I've been teaching you, but you don't understand. And I think that it's time to, from there, you know that, oh, it's time for me to call this child aside and ask, are you okay? Is something going on? You know, and then when the child now opens up to you, then the child finds a safe space.
Right.
Now, I used to say it's important that the child finds a safe space and a safe place. The safe place is in your mind,
Right.
but the safe space is where you're at. So the child will now be looking up to going to school instead of always staying at home with all of my parents and all of that. So the child is looking up to going to school, and then the teacher should not just stop there. The teacher should talk to the school. You know, if there's a way they can reach out to the parents and also speak with them, because by so doing, the woman that is facing that violence would not want to report.
Exactly.
You know, so if the school can now talk to them, and then if the woman doesn't want to listen, it's important that you call the child care. We have social health workers these days. You know, you can call somebody, go to Women Affairs, they have a child desk in Women Affairs. There are different organizations that do a lot around kids. You know, you can just talk to them that this is what is going on with this child, and I think that this child needs help. And then from there they can help.
But is there an intentional program for maybe teachers, maybe caregivers, especially those that handle children by the government, to say, you know what, let us also train the teachers. Let them even know the telltale signs.
Yeah, I think I've heard some schools, they do that. And then I do that for some other schools.
Right.
You know, we talk to them about this sexual and gender-based violence, harmful traditional practices. It was 2 months ago, I was at school for the deaf in Kuje. I didn't go to just see the students. It was their PTA meeting. So I was there to talk to both the parents, the teachers, and the students, because the students were also there. So I was there to talk to everybody, you know, about sexual and gender-based violence, how we can keep ourselves safe, how you can report these issues, and all of that. So basically, that's what I do. I go to schools. I do for media people as well.
Right.
You know, I speak to them, you know, train them on how to ask these questions, because if you begin to say some things, the children, they just begin to look at you, you're already judging me,
Yes.
so I would not say anything.
Yes.
And sometimes their parents tell them from home that don't say anything. Whatever happens at home stays at home, so don't say anything. So at the end of the day, you get to see these children, they're fidgeting and all of that. I was at school for the blind, October 24th, and we were there talking to the children about reporting. It's not snitching, it's not amebo, it's reporting. Yeah, so if somebody has done anything wrong, that you're bullying or whatever it is, the case of bullying, if that boy had reported earlier to his parents, he wouldn't have died.
Exactly.
So report, if you look for somebody, it doesn't have to be your parents, it doesn't have to be your teacher. If there's somebody that is moving at the roadside, Nigerians are very hospitable.
We are
very hospitable.
To see the next person in trouble.
Exactly. Even if one or two, you will see the third person will say, no, this child is in danger, let's help. So Nigerians are very hospitable. The person doesn't have to be your family member or anything. It's important that you just call for help. Cry out for help. Please help me. I need your help on this particular issue. And at the end of the day, you see that you're fine.
Exactly. However, we've also had reports of the other way around, where, I don't know if you stumbled on that report, I think that was in Lagos State, where it was said that the report had it that about 340 something men
were battered by their wives. It's funny, but
and I know it's really funny. However, I know that it's even more difficult for the man to report.
Yeah.
And these are just the
I'm excited about the news.
Exactly.
I was excited by the news. Somebody from another TV station sent me that article, news, right. And she wanted me to talk on that, and I was excited to talk about it because I'm a certified sexual and gender-based advocate. So my certification covers men and women,
right.
Gender, and I'm certified by the Federation of International Gender and Human Rights. So it's for both male and female. And I hate this word people say, man up. Because now a woman will probably not even beat you, but a woman would use her mouth And at the end of the day, what is she causing? Emotional abuse. So there are different types of
Abuse.
sexual and gender-based abuse. We have physical abuse. That's when you inflict harm, you beat, and there's beat mark. There's emotional, that's psychological. When you say things to make the person feel depressed,
Yes,
you know, have psychological effect. PTSD happens even with emotional abuse.
Exactly.
You get to see some children when you tell them, you're useless, you're good for nothing. At the end of the day, you now get to see that when they go to school,
they actually
yes, they don't want to.
Because,
they don't even try.
Because they already have been told that they will not amount to
anything. Exactly. So that's emotional abuse. Then we have other ones. We have sexual assault, the one that everybody talks about, rape and all of that. But a lot of people don't talk about emotional abuse, but it's still part of it.
And when that's where the women often are the champions.
Yes. A lot of women are champions because they feel like they don't have power to beat, but then they can use their mouth.
Right.
Yeah, they can use words. So what I feel like, I always say that when it gets to that point when you now have to start inflicting harm on your spouse, emotional abuse, I think it's time for you to just walk away from that situation. Get a therapist, get a counselor that can help you. There are a lot of counselors these days, you know, that are there to help people. I'm not talking about going to your pastors, because some of our pastors are not certified, you know,
they are not trained.
Exactly.
They are not, please, I keep saying it here on the show. Your religious leaders very often are not certified and might not give you that space, like you said, space and place for you to even give you the advice necessary. Even.
Exactly.
So
and most of them are even allowing, they are even causing a lot of people not to report. Exactly. Because once you report to them, then your case becomes the sermon. The next Sunday, you know, so a lot of people don't want to.
Nobody wants your personal issues
to be out there,
right.
and if you meet a counselor, you have like that closure, you know, that confidence that this my secret is safe,
and right.
Exactly. So it's important that you meet.
I'm waiting for why you were excited that the other gender.
Oh, yes. That's still what we're saying. It's important that the other gender comes to report, because the law covers you as well. Right. Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. It's not violence against women. You know, violence against persons. So it covers you. The Child Rights Act, it covers you as an individual. So it's not just for one person. So whenever there's a case like this, I was excited. That report was between July and September. Right. So it was a short period of time, and then they reported this issue. So and if you ask me, I would say that some women, is because they've gone through this. So before the husband said he wants to even raise his hand,
they've also
wanted to, you know, fight, you know,
exactly.
You know, defend themselves. And I would say that it's not that I'm defending the women, because a lot of men will be like, because she's a
but naturally it's prominent. Cases are prominent.
Yes,
with
prevalence, yes, with women. So that's the reason why you see that a lot of people talk about the women gender. But it's important that the men, you know, come out to report if there's something.
Okay, so that's what excited you. The fact that they too were coming out
to report. Yes, right. Because they are also part of the gender, and it's important that they report as well.
Right.
If the women are reporting, then the men should also report. Yeah. So they shouldn't go through harm and say, oh, let me keep quiet, and say, let me man up. Because like people say, it's a shameful thing if a man goes to report that my wife is beating me or something like that.
That stereotype is even worse. So,
yes, it's worse. It's worse.
Yes.
It's what they'll say. That means you not be man, no. Yeah. Sometimes when you even go to the police station to report some of these cases, and that's why I was saying that it's important that there's a gender desk, you know, at every police station. Let there be somebody there that understands sexual and gender-based abuse, so that whenever somebody comes, you don't ask the person, how your wife take beat you now? Oga, you know strong.
You know be strong man.
You know get power. You know man. You know be man or something like that. You know, so we should have a gender desk, someone that can, you know, speak to you professionally, and then the person can address that issue.
Exactly. However, I think that was in the pipeline, so to speak. So I'm not sure what's going on. We have so much more to discuss, but at this point we'll just go for a very short break and return. Lois is still with us. Lois Amele.
Yes.
I love that name now. We'll be right back after this.
Thank you.
Mr. President, last Saturday, the country which I have the honor to represent, the Federation of Nigeria, became independent and assumed the rights and the responsibilities of a sovereign state. Today, Nigeria has been admitted into the United Nations organization and assume still more responsibilities. I wish to make our position plain beyond any matter of doubt as regards the African continent. We in Nigeria appreciate the advantages which the size of our country and of its population give us, but we have absolutely no aggressive intentions. We shall never impose ourselves upon any other country and shall treat every African territory, big or small, as our equal, because we honestly feel that it is only on that basis of equality that peace can be maintained in our continent. We in Nigeria are a populous country. There are about 40 million of us, and our territory is relatively large. We are willing to learn before we rush into the field of international politics. But we are totally unwilling to be diverted from the ideals which we think true. That is the reason, Mr. President, why we in Nigeria shall not be found to align ourselves as a matter of routine with any particular bloc. Indeed, I hate the very idea of blocs existing at all in the United Nations. It seems to me to be a contradiction in terms. When we hear the world crying out for peace, we may receive the inspiration to deal with these intractable problems and be able really to devote all our resources to the advancement of mankind by applying those eternal truths which will inevitably persist long after we ourselves are utterly forgotten. Thank you, Mr. President.
Welcome back from that very short break. Like I said earlier, we still have Lois Amele right here in the studio. Right, we'll be talking about the 16 days activism against violence against girls and women. Now we're moving the conversation to talk about female genital mutilation, where she is the advocator of all advocators. I think you carry that award in Nigeria when it comes to female genital mutilation. That's another sort of violence really meted on young people. Where would you say we are when it comes to advocacy against it? And our Nigerian women, those in especially rural areas, do they understand the harm that it brings? I was surprised to know that it is not just an African thing recently.
Yeah, it's not an African thing. You know, I was watching a movie, I think it's The Good Doctor or something like that. And in the movie, somebody came with female genital mutilation, and I heard the doctors talking about it, and I was so excited. And I'm like, oh, it was in an Asian country. Yes, this was an Asian country, and I'm excited because they also used it. They also used it to advocate, right. You know, and I loved it. Female genital mutilation is a serious issue. A lot of people would think that, female genital mutilation, is it still happening in Nigeria? Is it still something that, yes, so it's still happening in Nigeria. And we have an estimate of 68 million at risk from now to 2030. These people have not been caught yet, but they're at risk from now to 2020. And 22% of that 68 million is 14.1 thereabout, and that 14.1 is the Nigerian number, the Nigerian percentage. So 14.1, million girls will be caught, within this period, and it's a serious thing for me, and that's the reason why I set out to advocate, on female genital mutilation. Over 200 million women have been caught in over 29 countries, on female genital mutilation. We see that there is a lot. It's a lot. I don't even know where to start, because female genital mutilation, the reason why we call it, a lot of people would be asking, what is female genital mutilation? But people call it female circumcision. When I say circumcision, people say, hey, hey. Yes. That's about, I don't call it circumcision because it's gruesome. Mutilation. Yes, it's a gruesome violation of the girl's rights. You can call it circumcision for the male. That is okay. You can call it circumcision for the male. It's okay. And then because it reduces penile cancer and all of that for the male. For the females, it is not necessary. It doesn't even have health benefits at all. It doesn't have any health benefits. If not, a lot of consequences, immediate consequences, aftermath consequences, and throughout her life, you know, she's suffering from this particular thing. Right. So female genital mutilation is a serious issue. It is a serious issue, but have we taken this, have we cascaded it as enough in rural areas? My mom is a public health coordinator of a local government in Cross River State, and she was appalled when she, while communicating with, especially this traditional birth attendants, who it's just part of the entire process. Yes, after 7 days. After 7 days, it's part of the entire process. But where are we when it comes to government-targeted programs against FGM? You mentioned something, I just want to throw more light into it. And you said those in the hospital, health workers that used to do this particular thing. It's called medicalization of FGM, and that is what FGM is evolving into. You know, it's evolving into people going into the hospital, not just doing it in the grassroots. Yes. You know, a lot of people going to the hospital doing this. And we see that 1 in 4 persons have been caught. That's a total of 58 million, you know, that have been caught, you know, through hospital practitioners. And that is a very serious issue. Because some people we trust with our lives. Yes, so if they say it's okay, then you feel it's okay. The validation that you need. Exactly. So, but it's not, it doesn't do anything. I was talking somewhere, and somebody was asking a question that what if I do it in the hospital? Now, what you have done is you have reduced, the risk, the first stage of it. The first stage of it, and that is probably maybe bleeding. They can help you do something about it. HIV, because maybe they would use a steroid, a steroid tool. Then, you know, pain. They can help to reduce the pain and all of that. But the aftermath effect is still there. And some people don't even know how to do it properly. So when they have injuries to the part of the, you know, the genitalias, and that causes a lot of issue, you know. So then when it comes to the aftermath effect, that's the long-term effect. Then you now get to see childbearing complications, urinary complications, you know. Even it has psychological effects, depression, PTSD. A lot of children don't even trust their caregivers anymore, because a lot of people grow before they do these things to them. So it's different for different cultures, different people. So some people, they allow them to grow. So that's why we say FGM is usually done from 0 to 15. So if you sometimes I heard somebody was saying that this December they send my pikin go village, and I was like, why? She was like, they never circumcise them, and she don't reach that age where she don't start to menstruate. If she menstruates now, you go see say one boy go meet them. You know, that's what they think. They think it helps to reduce promiscuity, you know, and all of that. But I've met a lot of people that FGM now causes them to be promiscuous, because now they have caught the organ that helps them to gain satisfaction, sexual satisfaction. They are now looking for sexual satisfaction, so that leads them to becoming sex workers. So that is so the myth about FGM becomes opposite. It becomes opposite. Counterproductive. Exactly. So it's a very big issue. There are a lot of reasons. Some people say social reasons, you know, social cultural reasons that say it's to bring you into adulthood. So once they caught you, they are now an adult. They will do different ceremony, festivals, and all of that. They do it for a lot of girls, you know, at that particular time. You know, then they usher them into womanhood. Some religious reasons, you know, they say in our place, Moses' law, Abraham's law, you know, says we should do this. But reading and talking to some of the religious people, they tell you that no, that's not what it was. It was talking about engrafting you, bringing you into the body of Christ, just like baptism. You know, bringing you into, that's what it means. So a lot of people just generate doctrines that are not even there. They just generate it and they're like,
just to justify it.
Exactly, just to justify it. And then there are economical reasons, you know. In those days, a lot of women, that's why I'm excited that you see NGOs, they come out to empower women. I'm excited about it because in those days, if you don't marry, that means you will not feed.
Right.
Nobody is there to take care of you because it's the men that go out to do the work, you know. So economical reasons, once you are not caught, nobody wants to marry you. And you know that in a way, this helps the male because they go on and on and all in the sexual intercourse till they are done. You don't have any feeling of what is going on, so it helps the male. So they encourage it. Exactly. And then for another economic reason is the practitioners themselves. You know, they use it to make money.
Of course.
So
promote it so that you keep coming.
Even in some states, they advertise. If not now that you hear a lot of people talking about it and now it has gone down, they advertise it. They say if you want to be a circumciser, it's just like you want to learn work, like tailoring. That you want to learn work, they say come and let's teach you to do this. And then you see the children of those people, they learn the job, and then as they learn the job, they continue in the act. And as they're doing that, those people the women that are cutting their children also cut their children, and it moves from generation to generation. That's why it's even something very, it's a cultural thing, and it's something very difficult to break people from. You know, I was talking somewhere and somebody said, is it that you think it's because you are lazy? It's because you cannot handle pain. You know, because I go to the grassroots to create awareness because you cannot handle pain, and I'm like, no, that's nothing to do with the pain. You know, it has a lot to do with the life of the girl. Exactly. I met somebody that 4 of her children, she gave birth to them, via cesarean section, and that's because of female genital mutilation. There are different types. Some people will say, now Shabi is just to cut the clitoris out. There are different types. The type 1 is clitoridectomy, where they just cut the clitoris alone. And that's just it. The second one is excision. They cut the clitoris and cut the internal part of the clitoris, the labia minora. Right. Then the infibulation, they sew the whole labia minora down and leave just a small space for urination and sometimes menstruation, depending on the expertise of the person. Now, for some people, they don't even know what it is, so they just sew everything down. And when they sew everything down, the woman is unable to menstruate. So the blood and everything is stored in the uterus.
Wow, that's so dangerous.
Very dangerous. That's why you see a lot of people, they go through a lot of pain, Then sometimes cysts begin to come out, tumor, because some of their tools are not sterile and some infections going, so it begins to grow. Big tumor begins to grow in their genitalia. So it's a very serious issue. Then the last one is different cultures. Some people prick, some people pierce, some people insert herbs and all of that. We've had situations where they cut the woman and they put, they call it, I can't remember the name of those tongues. They put it inside the genitalia that it will help the woman to heal. And then you'll be there for days. You can't urinate, you can't do anything. You'll be there for days. Is that not torture? So female genital mutilation doesn't have any health effect. We have been saying this over and over and over again. A lot of women have died. A lot of girls have died. And you see, one thing is, these circumcisers, if they try to cut you, and maybe something happens, you begin to bleed, they will leave you aside. They'll say, this one, something they follow this one. Say, don't we see other people that have been cutting? Are they not alive? Say they blame you even for bleeding. They blame you for...
So there's no win to this.
There's no win. They blame you for whatever happens to you. Even when you come back and you say, see, after the cut, this is what happens to me. They're like, see this one where they cut, waiting do why your own can't day like this? They blame you for whatever happens. And sometimes it's not your fault. It's due to the expertise of the person that is actually cutting you. And sometimes the people that are restraining you because you are trying to...
Yes, pain. And sometimes there are no anesthesia.
Exactly. So sometimes they don't put, and they don't give you anesthesia. The pain is part of it. It's to usher you into humanhood. So in womanhood, you go through pain. So pain is the order of the day when you're a woman. That is their ideology about it.
And of course, the way you handle the pain determines what a strong woman you would be. It's unfortunate, this kind
very unfortunate.
When it comes to religious and cultural practices, it is serious work. Yes. When it has to do with reorientation and shifting their mindset.
It's a lot.
So would you say that, you're in this space, would you say that the Nigerian government has been very intentional in redirecting these women who have this kind of...
Yes, I'll say of recent, because I've seen a lot of people, and I want to give kudos to UNFPA. I want to give kudos to them. They're doing so much.
I saw you attended an event recently.
Yes, they're doing so much. In fact, I was facilitating. I also spoke on FGM. They're doing so much around. You know, the event was NCWS. It's National Council for Women's Society. Right. You know, so they have like women from different states in Nigeria. All of them came around. So they wanted to do like a one-day training on female genital mutilation, and they were sponsored, or they partnered with UNFPA. In fact, UNFPA rep were there. They were also there to create awareness on sexual and gender-based, violence. And we had a lot of time to talk, about these things, and they were like, oh, so this is what it is. Now, what that does is they now go from there to their own community to create awareness on that. The PowerPoint presentation I had, I told them, I said, please give it to them. Let them take it to their communities. Let them use it to create awareness. Let them use the pictures in those PowerPoint presentations to make them understand that this is what it is, and it is wrong. And somebody was asking, the woman said that I thought she has tried to talk to some people, but they don't listen. I said, okay, then list out the consequences. Show them that this is what it will cost. So if you do this, this is what it will cost. And at the end of my presentation, I write stories of survivors, those that have survived and what has happened to them, in that presentation. So they have it, and then they look at it and they're like, okay, see this woman, or see what happened to her. See this woman, see what happened to her. Exactly. So that alone can convince them, because one of the problems they're having is the social norm. Once you don't do it to your child, everybody segregates you. I have a book, Tolani Nirara. In fact, I brought it here the last time I was here, and the book is also in Braille. The book talked about stereotyping and how you can overcome it and all of that, and how a young girl was brave enough to say, no, I don't want somebody to do this to me. I've seen people die from this. I've seen people go back in class, because sometimes when they don't heal quickly, you don't go back to that. Maybe you're in just 1 or you're in just 2. You don't go back to just 2. You go back to your just 1 and redo just 1 again, because you've missed a lot of classes. So you go back, you do, repetition and all of that, post-traumatic stress, depression, and a lot of things that child will be going through, because she'll be seeing her classmates in the moving to other classes. So it's a serious issue. So we give it to them. We say, okay, go to your communities, go and sensitize them, tell them that this is what it will cost. So see this woman. I narrated the story of a woman, that was caught, and she refused to be caught. She said no, that she would not be caught. Like, I always narrate this story. She said no, that she would not be caught, and the husband just felt it was nothing. And then when it was time for her to give birth, they called all the people that help to deliver babies. And then when they call those women, when they open and they see her clitoris, they'll say, abomination. They wash their hands and they go. No, I don't want. Nobody wanted to attend to her. Wow. So the grandmother started begging her that allow them to cut you. She said no, that she have heard it, that people have been talking about it, that don't allow anybody to cut you. Yeah. So she said no, that let them take her baby. Her baby will not die. That nothing will happen to her baby. That they should please help her. They refused though. The women refused, that they cannot help her. So every time they say no, we cannot do this. And then the husband came and said, oh, if the only way to save her life is to
get her caught.
They now told the women that they should cut her. The woman that was, pregnant was there, and then she started pushing out the baby. So at least they can take the baby from her, maybe before they now say they want to cut her, or before, they can at least help deliver the baby. The head of the baby was coming out already. So this woman saw that the head of the baby they pushed the head of the baby back inside. The woman went into shock. The baby died. Just because they want to cut her. And just because it's an abomination, they cannot deliver a baby of a woman that has not been circumcised. So
this is how bad it could get.
That is how bad it is. And for some people, even no matter how modernization is, whenever they are pregnant, they'll go to the village and say, no, this is how my mother did. Kai! That was how she went into shock. At least she was alive, but the baby died. So at the end of the day, and they still cut her. They didn't leave her. They cut and brought out the dead baby.
Lois, this is a very sad one. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, and I must applaud you for the work that you do. It's laudable, and in the media, of course, we're always here. Yeah. Whenever we have to, amplify the voices of these very serious advocacies. I'll just use this opportunity to encourage everyone to join the 16 days activism against violence against women and girls. It's very, very important. A lot is happening. I know that it might seem like we oversay this, but it's not enough.
It's not.
Because women and girls are indeed going through harrowing experiences sometimes. But thank you so much for being part of the program.
Thank
Lois,
you.
Tufumi, Amele, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our gender-based advocate and the FGM advocate, or rather against FGM advocate.
Yes,
rather.
an advocate to end FGM.
Yes, advocacy to end FGM. At this point, we'll go join the Investment Plus team, and that would be the end of the program. I'll be right here to usher you, or you will be back to usher me out of the studio, I guess. But thank you for being part of the program so far. Investment Plus coming up next.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Investment Plus. Today, I'm here to share with you 3 essential rules that when you follow them diligently, you will definitely start your journey to building wealth. Rule number 1, you need to spend less than you earn. It sounds very simple, but a lot of people don't do it. Many people fall into the trap of living beyond their means. Now, that would be, let's say you earn 100,000 and you're spending 120,000, 150,000. There is no way you can build wealth that way. To build wealth, we must break free from the cycle of living in debt and overspending. Now, the question you want to ask is, this extra 20,000 that I have that I always overspend with, where do I get it from? It's actually from borrowing or dipping into future income that you have not even earned. So you need to cut that habit of overspending. What you need to do is to start by creating a budget and tracking your expenses. Now, I know we don't like the word budget, but honestly, you can't create wealth without a spending plan. That's what the budget is. It tells you what to do with your money. As a matter of fact, you tell your money what to do. So you need to differentiate also between needs and wants and prioritize saving and investment. Now, in my experience coaching people, I found out that a lot of people have modeled the meaning of needs and wants. They know it, but somehow in their subconscious, they just tell themselves, you know what, that need is a want. That's why it's an emergency. And that's why you see people run around when it's rent time, they run around when it's school fees time. These things are actually things that tell you when they're going to come, and they're not emergencies. So it's a bit muddled up, needs, wants, emergencies. And so you must be careful to know the difference between these two. Rule number 2 is to invest wisely and diversify your investments. Diversify. Building wealth isn't just about saving money. Now, I know you've heard that, and a lot is going on online, particularly where people tell you saving money is not the key to wealth, and that could be true. But when you save money, you have peace of mind, because now you can take care of basic needs and you can cover bills that you should cover that normally would stress other people who don't save out. But when it comes to wealth building, you have to actually make your money work for you. You have to learn about different investment options, such as stocks, real estate, mutual funds. You have to take the time to learn. You have to seek advice from financial experts, particularly if you don't have much time on your side, consult and then create a diversified portfolio that aligns with your goals and your risk tolerance. I always say that if you want to know what your risk appetite is or tolerance, all you need to do is to play the game Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and you can tell. If you're the one who walks away at 250,000 guaranteed, you know your risk level already, so you can easily tell what you have appetite for. Remember, time also is your greatest ally in the world of investing. Every time I get the opportunity to talk to young people, university students, even secondary school students, I always tell them, you have to start now. Don't wait till you're 30, you're 25 or anything. If you're 18 watching this, you need to start now. Time is your greatest ally when it comes to investing. Rule number 3, plan for the future. Retirement, beyond retirement, you need to make a plan. It is crucial for you to always have a long-term perspective when it comes to making day-to-day financial choices. You have to start planning for your retirement as early as possible. The truth of the matter is you have energy to work right now. There's going to be a time where you won't have as much energy. And the truth is when you see someone in their old age looking for money from their children all the time, or bothering the entire family, or having to do so much hard labor to make money, they didn't make wise financial choices when they were younger. Now you have that opportunity to correct that. So consider options like pension schemes, individual retirement accounts, and other investment vehicles that offer tax advantages. Furthermore, safeguard your wealth with insurance, estate planning, and you also need to create an emergency fund. Remember, preparation is the key to financial security. And that's it on today's episode. 3 money rules you must follow to build wealth. Spend less than you earn, invest wisely and diversify, and plan for the future. That's retirement and beyond. But remember, it's not just about following these rules blindly. It's about developing the right mindset and making them a part of your financial lifestyle. Now, before we conclude today, let me share a bonus rule with you. You have to continue to learn and adapt. That's the key. The world of finance is ever evolving, and to stay ahead, we must commit to lifelong learning. So read books, attend seminars, follow financial experts to stay informed. I mean, Google is your friend today. YouTube is also amazing. You need to keep your learning going. By expanding your knowledge, you'll make better financial decisions and seize opportunities that come your way. That's it on today's episode of the show. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Welcome back from that. I'm sure you enjoyed that financial management tips from the Investment Plus team. My name is Joy Asoya, and this is where we round it up on ASO Morning today. We'll be back tomorrow with just as interesting topics as we did today. So have a wonderful, productive day.